Welcome to Beyond Time Signatures.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, how are you doing today, man?
Oh, I out of coffee, so it's
Oh,
like
wow.
the end of the world.
Yeah.
No, it's good. My wife and I did a like acrobatic dancing class last
Oh,
night,
wow.
which was pretty sweet. So today my hands hurt, and other than that, just getting ready to suffer through some lessons a little later. What
Uh,
about you, man?
I'm doing absolutely fine. I just woke up from a nap. That's the reason why we are late. Yeah.
Hey, at least you're getting some sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of was deserving because I went out to play football and I also went out to like a guitar store to fetch few things because apparently I have a show to play on Monday, which I just got to know about today. So yeah, I have some demos dusted off that I'm gonna take out for some spin. So it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
You're gonna show up to a Bollywood thing and play some prog rock?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's the reason why one of my friends invited me that like we don't want that Bollywood bullshit. We want
Mm.
something that's new, that's something that people's now not heard yet. So he was like, "Yeah, you would be a great fit." So I was like, "Cool.
Hey,
Thank you for having me."
that's awesome.
Yeah. Can you tell people like how long have you been playing guitar? Because I'm pretty sure you have been playing guitar since I was in my father's testicles.
Uh, yeah. So I actually been playing guitar less than bass and drums. That's what I started out on when I was in junior high, and I did marching band and drumline in high school. And I had this guitarist for like funk rock, like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Incubus kind of band in high school, who just like lost his shit. Uh, Too much acid, too many drugs, smashed all his guitar equipment in my basement. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll start playing guitar now. And it just kind of stuck with that ever since. So it's been
20-ish?
maybe about 18 years playing guitar. Yeah.
Bro,
I'm
that's
older than I look, so,
yeah.
I appreciate you saying
You,
10
you take
years.
care of your skin and all.
Yeah, it's, sunscreen and moisturize. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, yeah, rule of thumb. So that's amazing. And were you playing the classic rock slash alternative rock stuff in the earlier days?
No. So most of what I was doing was like Circus Survive, a lot of like Deftones, Mars Volta, that kind of stuff.
Oh wow.
Once I started playing guitar, big fan of like Incubus also. So if, there's a guitar part, I have to put like six effects on it. And I had like two different pedal boards so that when I went to a show, I could be as annoying as possible and take up all the space. Yeah, it was definitely not super technical. It was sloppy as fuck when I first like recorded a session with some guy out here. Actually, Chris, we had this band called Tiger, and I recorded some bass for it. And the guy mixing it told Chris that it was the most edits he'd ever have to do on a bass to get it to be in time. Uh, which was, kind of a wake up call that I need to pay a little more attention to, like string muting, technicality, like playing with a metronome again. I'd never heard Periphery until I met Chris. Most of my like metal was, screamo, some older post-hardcore bands, As I Lay Dying, stuff like that. So yeah, it was a big progression from the old stuff that I did. That it was okay. It was fun, but it wasn't like
Super technical.
crafted. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And so like Chris has really seen you grow as a musician, right?
Hmm. Yeah, he honestly he's such a huge influence to me. every time I see him play, it just reminds me of like how somebody can have such a unique voice and carry that through with everything they play, even if it's like a simple lead. He somehow makes it sound like this is Chris. It's him, and that's something that I've always wanted to aspire to. Because anyone can shred, anyone can play 1,000 notes. Like there are millions of talented guitarists out there in the world,
That's true.
but people that are recognizable, that's something special.
Yeah, like as you can see, like people like Matteo Mancuso, Pliny, Steve Vai, John Petrucci, like people whom you can recognize just when they play like 2 3 notes. Like that's
Hmm.
the goal, that's the bar. Like being super technical and all comes as a second nature to being that good.
Yeah, and I still struggling with that. Still trying to. I think we had a conversation just a few hours ago about am I ripping this person? If I'm this delay is driving me
It's okay. It's
crazy.
okay.
Am I ripping this person off? Am I being unique? Am I, just rehashing something that somebody else has done? And I feel like that's something that we're going to continue to develop for the rest of our lives, and being a little less self-critical and accepting those influences. And if we see something or hear something that reminds us of an artist we love, viewing it less as I'm ripping this off, more as, hey, this is just an example of how much I love this person's music, that their influence has crept in, and I'm not intentionally ripping them off, but if something has that similar vibe, that's great, you know?
Yeah, I do have that contemplation a lot of the times because I've heard people say that the kind of music you play should also reflect your influences, but at the same time, it
Hmm.
shouldn't be derivative. So it's always that thin line you have to be aware of.
Yeah. Well, and have you heard the saying, "There's nothing new under the sun"?
No, but I get,
Okay,
but I
so
get it.
it basically, yeah. But at a certain point, there are new things, like who was doing animals as leaders stuff before animals as leaders. Occasionally somebody comes along and breaks the mold, but for the vast majority of people, like I said yesterday, there's only so many notes. There's only so many options and melodies. It's about like putting your own flair on it. Uh, One of the things that I like most about, or that I like most to do to kind of make something a little more unique to me, are like the little micro bends. So where you get just that little like,
The half note Mateus Asado style, David Maxim
yeah,
Richard
yeah,
style thing.
the
Yeah, I do that too.
yeah, I love those because it wasn't something that I ever heard. I grew up playing like Red Hot Chili Pepper solos and stuff where if you used a trem bar, it was super fucking lame. Any kind of bending was, you just, if you did the whole step bend, garage rock, dad bends, that was like the thing to do. Anything other than that, no.
That makes sense. Like, so from what I can say, like articulation and the way you interpret the melody in the context of the song is what really matters at the end of.
Yeah, exactly. The more focus you put on like the things that you enjoy, then you continue to compound that, and you continue to be able to develop that, and that's where I think your voice really starts to shine through.
Yeah, fair enough. Makes sense. Also, like, let's say when you're writing a song from a riff or like from an idea that you had in mind, do you think actively, like in the initial phases, that it's going to be an instrumental track or a track with vocals?
So if I'm writing a track for vocals, it pretty much is almost always going to stay a track for vocals, just because the way that I write the riff or whatever structures that I have, they tend to not be dumbed down, but they leave a lot more space that then I generally will struggle to fill in. I have had quite a few songs where it started out as something that was instrumental and then somebody heard it. Like there are a couple of things that I was doing with Miguel where I had posted something on Instagram is an instrumental thing, like a selective picking thing, and then he sends me a vocal melody over it. And he's like, oh, I really dig this. Like, so then, something that was intended to be instrumental, vocals fit a little more easily over that versus taking the thing that I had that left a lot of space and then trying to be like, okay, but how do I make this interesting if there's nobody singing over it?
Yeah, makes sense. Like I like how like okay, so a good example of that would be shouting from the ocean, right? So you have that
Mm,
tapping thing in the intro going on, like, and then it
yeah.
just like it sounds huge because you left a lot of space for the vocals to fill in with the scream, and you were not doing something super technical. You were probably playing like a power chord with a third or with a like I don't know, something like that.
It's just a bar chord.
Oh, it was a bar chord.
It's just, yeah, it's an F sharp minor.
Oh, cool. But it sounded huge. So like, I guess that is what you're trying to say, right? Like leaving space for vocals and not, having the guitars and the vocals to fight in the mid range.
Mm. And there's definitely spots where something like that really, really works. Like, I mean, you've listened to Shrezzers, right? Okay, so Shrezzers has some absolutely insane guitar parts, or Aviations also, like, amazing job of taking something crazy technical but still being able to put vocals over it. That doesn't work all the time, and some people hate it. With Miguel, we like to leave more space so that like the vocals could really, really be front and center. But that tapping thing, like it's still so much fun to play, and I love it. So I don't feel like I'm missing anything from not playing like some super muted, all over the fretboard kind of thing. But there are some things that I'm working on with people right now. Pablo's vocalist Anthony. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we're gonna be doing an EP together and be a little more like polyphia, unprocessed kind of stuff.
That's
in the
amazing.
guitar parts. So
Wow.
yeah, very excited about that.
Yeah. I know how much you like unprocessed.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So much so that you're starting to kill on those vocal takes as well.
I really appreciate that, man. I struggled so much with even like wanting to do a second vocal cover because there's just this voice in the back of my head that says everyone's actually lying to you.
Nah,
They
it's
just
all in
wanna
your
be
head, man.
friend, but and that voice is so hard to get past. But yeah, I'm really glad I did that unprocessed vocal because I hit some notes, like especially in the chorus where it goes up to like a B and a C that I didn't think I was going to be able to do, and it ended up like being my favorite part of what I did. So, that and everyone's reaction to it has been really encouraging for me to
Definitely,
hopefully
man.
keep
Like,
pushing forward with it.
if it's good, then people are going to, like support it. Even though sometimes it might feel that, oh no, people are maybe just saying that for the sake of it and not really digging it, but most of the times it's actually genuinely good. It's some yeah. One of my friends told me this, like, if it gets dark outside, you just have to open your eyes. It was yeah, it was the thing. Anyway, speaking of that, do you think personally in your writing process, having like doing this mix of covers and making your original music helps you a lot with more creative and original ideas?
Oh, absolutely. For a long time, pretty much up through when I met Chris, I refused to do covers. I would listen to somebody's song and I would play along with it, but I wouldn't sit down and tab things out. I wouldn't figure things out note for note. I'd just be like, oh, here, this is the key that this is in. I'm going to practice noodling over it. And I was like, I just prefer writing my own music to doing covers. And that was really stagnating because I was closing myself off to a lot of options and ideas and, finger patterns and chord shapes and all sorts of, options for expressing myself that I wasn't giving myself the ability to learn. Once I started doing all the like full covers of stuff at the beginning of the pandemic and trying to start my YouTube channel was when I actually started like making a lot of progress again and feeling like I was starting to find more of a voice rather than just here's some basic shit that I wrote. So yeah, I tell people all the time, I have a lot of students and I'm like, one of the best things you can do is learn stuff from other people and understand why they're doing what they're doing, why this like chord fits with this chord, why this change
Functional
sets
harmony.
up this next section so well. Exactly. Because that informs so much of what you can do when you have an idea and possibilities for expanding your voice.
That's actually pretty true. And I mean, let's say if it wasn't for covers, like you wouldn't even like, because sometimes when I write stuff, I lack conviction. I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
would this sound lame if I do this? Or and then I look at people like, let's say Pliny. Like Pliny does this really wide vibratos and very bluesy stuff, but when he does it with conviction. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if he can do that, maybe like I can give it a shot as well. Like it's not lame if Pliny does it.
Yeah, and it's confidence in what you want to say. Um, if and this is something that I talk about a lot with my students too, that if you're not confident in what you're doing is reinforcing to yourself that you're doing something wrong. If you're picking really gently and your fingers aren't synchronized, you're telling your brain like, I'm doing something wrong, but I don't know what's right, so we're just going to continue to be hesitant about this. Versus if you play with conviction, like you said, and you have that mindset of, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to say. If you don't like it, people are always going to hate certain styles of music. They're going to not vibe with something. But the people out there who do enjoy that sort of stuff, they see you play with conviction. They hear that you're confident in what you want to do, what you want to say, what you're putting out there. That's going to connect with them so much better than, oh, I just kind of like doing this. And the more we reinforce to our brain that hesitancy, then it bleeds over to every single time we try and play or every single time we try and write, because we coach ourselves that hesitancy is supposed to be there. That negativity or that uncertainty is just the aspect of playing guitar.
Yeah, that is really the things that people don't generally admit really quickly. So I'm very like happy that your students are being given a perspective which is not their own and which is more objective in nature.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I wanted to ask you, like, do you think your mixing improved because of doing covers? Because you have something as a baseline to refer to.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially with when I was doing a lot of the era covers, because I really love Grant Carson and or Grant McFarlane and Carson Slovak's mixing. That was a huge like level up to try and match everything they were doing on the era recordings and get MIDI instruments and my shitty ass Schecter 7-string to sound like the things that were on the era records. And also, I think the biggest upside for me of doing the covers was seeing all the production elements that go into the songwriting, that even if you're not able to like actively hear them as a part of the song, if you take them away, it just feels like the energy level drops and there's so much less life going on in the recording. And a lot of that stuff is just like post-production things or how they layered certain guitars, or we're going to have like the DI. There's a really good Taylor Larson video where he's doing Jason Richardson guitars and he has a DI in there so that you can hear the pick attack a little bit more. and it's blended in really low, but just, small things like that I never would have considered. And doing these covers and watching a lot of the Nail the Mix videos, that really helped. Because I had never done a whole lot of mixing before I started doing covers. I did like a Deftones-esque band that I used to play in. I did an album for them. And now going back and looking at it, it sounds like dog shit because I was just like guessing and I was like, let's make everything loud. So many techniques that I never would have imagined or thought of, or ways to actually like handle the songwriting and the production. Covers are invaluable for that.
Every time, I dedicate a day in like, let's say 10 days or so where I just sit down, open up some Alan Holdsworth slash Tim Miller slash who the heck is fuck, I forgot his name. Who's the guy? Tom Quayle. Yeah, I'll just sit down.
And torture yourself.
Yeah, I'll just sit down and I'll just like transcribe stuff, and it probably would be nice to have tabs, but I just find transcribing by listening to the video over and over again for 6 hours at 0.25x speed just to see that one lick. I don't know, for some weird reason it's very rewarding to.
Yeah, I did that for most of my covers. I mean, like, I did the Bulb Parabolica cover. Figuring out that solo and all those riffs is just like, it's just like chaos. You've probably learned a lot of Misha's solos, probably more than I have. He doesn't really like stick in a key. He'll like get like 80% there, and then that last 20% is just like whatever the fuck I feel like doing. This is cool. So that was like, a huge struggle for me, doing the exact same thing, like looping like a little like 8-beat section where like, okay, I got to figure out these like 127 notes that he's playing right there, slowing it down, or I don't know if you ever do this when you're trying to figure out guitar parts. I'll always put an EQ on, and I'll carve out like the low end, or I'll carve out one channel or the other, or I'll like carve out like 8K or 4K or whatever's getting in the way so you can hear the guitar part more clearly.
Oh, I've never done that.
Oh, yeah. So if you're ever struggling with a guitar part, like using the recording, just drop it in Logic or Reaper or whatever and put the EQ on, and just cut out everything below like 400 so you don't have any like kick drum or like low end rumble getting in the way. Using EQ to kind of like clear it up so you can hear more clearly. But yeah, man, doing stuff by ear, I love it. It's really good training, helps you be able to recognize patterns better when you hear them in the future. Tabs are great, but being able to listen to something and interpret it and see the melody and the structure without necessarily needing to like look up what somebody else has done, it's really rewarding, and it's great. Like, can't talk. It's great incentive to just like continue building your own skills. Yeah.
Also, I would like to come back to the Misha's solo stuff. As us as guitar players, like, we probably like, if I think like, first thing that I do is like figure out the key so that I know like what notes they might be playing based on the area of the fretboard, like what mode they're in and stuff like that. With the thing with Misha is his style of playing solos is quite unconventional. Like if you take a look at Opsalom, or if you take a look at let's say Luck as a Constant, some of the licks he has in there is like very like jumping octaves, and doing some weird articulations, which isn't very guitar-esque in my opinion. And that is the reason why someone might spend more time transcribing, let's say, a Misha solo than a Jake solo.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Jake's solos, I think he has a couple that, wander a little bit. Which one is it? Is it Arist, or one of his? I remember seeing a video playing. He's like, yeah, this is the really sarcastic part. and it has like, some little like chromatic run and a couple bluesy notes. But yeah, his tend to be a little more straightforward. But yeah, I mean, I like the unconventional stuff because then you don't feel like you're listening to every other guitar solo that's ever been played.
Exactly. Yeah. And for a guy who claims to be not a lead player, he does some pretty good darn job. And
Yeah. That the Blood Eagle solo is just
yeah,
kill myself.
I know you're one of the guys like me. Like we'll learn some stuff and we'll record it real quickly, and it will be like good and all. And the next day, completely forgot.
Gone.
I don't even know how is it even possible. My brother in Christ, he played it like 4 hours ago.
I tell my students that all the time. I'm like, it's not great. Really, like doing stuff for social media is not a great way to internalize music. Doing things for live performances, that is the way if you want to internalize music, because you can't sit there and do 1,000 takes until you get like the one where you hit it right. But yeah, man, it's crazy. Sometimes I'll record something that I wrote, and then the next day I'm like, what the fuck was I even doing? Like, I don't know what this chord shape is. What tuning was I even in? And then it turns out I'm in like drop D, and I'm like, what did I do? This is, and to me, it's kind of a symptom of we have so much pressure to continually do new content and have something fresh out for people to listen to, and it's just like the lack of attention span or memory of the audience as well, that there's always somebody else to listen to. So we have that burden on us to be there for them to listen to, and it takes away a lot of the like you said, I'm going to do this in 4 hours. It takes a lot of the patience out of like learning something and really committing it to memory and having it internalized. And that's one of the reasons that I stopped doing the full YouTube covers, because I would, an Era song would drop or a Spirit Box song would drop, and I'd try and race Joao Medeiros to be the first one to cover it instrumentally, and try and get it out in like 24 hours. And it was just so stressful, and I'd be filming it and I can't even remember like what the hell comes next in the song because it's only been out for a few hours. And it just stopped being fun, and I haven't been posting as much on Instagram lately because I've been finishing up original music. I've been dealing with the camera being broken, and honestly, it's been fine because, it gives me a little bit more time to actually sit down and enjoy the music rather than, I got to get this done by tomorrow or no one's going to pay attention to me. It's a blessing and a curse, social media. Like, it's great we have that outlet. It's great that we're able to meet people that like we really connect with and that we're able to develop realistic friendships with all over the world. But there's so many like double-edged sword moments where I'm like, why does it have to be this way?
Yeah. Sometimes, do you think like after getting your cover out, you're like okay, it's out, but I don't think it was worth going through all that pain.
Yeah. Almost all of them.
Man, come on, don't say that.
No. Because it was still worth learning, because going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's still like improving my songwriting, my technique, my recording abilities, my mixing abilities. There are tons of beneficial aspects. I would still be doing covers even if I weren't posting them because it's still fun to learn. I probably have 80 covers that I've done on my computer that I never posted and never filmed, but I still like did all the production, did all the instruments, mixed it, and then just fucking never did anything with it. But some of them, you post it and you're like, wow, the Instagram absolutely boned me. I got, 12 likes on this one cover, which is, whatever. It's You don't need numbers to validate yourself if you know that you're doing something good and that you're actually talented. But those numbers still do seem to suck, even if you don't need them. And when that happens, it's like, wow, I spent like 12 hours doing this, and I, filmed this thing, and then, somebody's sharing, somebody who can't play, their guitar like in tune. And I mean, I complain about this in our group all the time when people share like the epic fail guitar stuff. I hate it. It drives me crazy that people share that stuff so much because, one, okay, this person now has like 300 million views on their video and it's been shared, 20,000 times, and it's them like not able to even play a power chord. But then, like, we put all this effort into our videos and to playing something really well, and it, just goes nowhere. So for me, that's like the frustrating thing, that the internet and social media thrive so much on dysfunction and things that are objectively and subjectively awful versus things that are, objectively or subjectively like well done and talented. And not to say that talented people don't get success and they don't get shared a bunch, but
The
there's
ratio is
such focus.
the ratio of that is quite noticeable.
Yeah. And for me, that's honestly, again, one of those double-edged sword things. I have people who ask me, why don't you do more skits? Why don't you do like meme stuff? Like, you're so good at guitar. Like, if you just did a bunch of stuff like that, you could get an audience, and then, you'd have an audience to release like stuff that you actually care about. But that's not what I want to do. I don't want to spend a bunch of time doing memes, and I don't want to build up an audience of people who want to see stupid shit. And then when I release something serious and they don't care about it, then I'm going to feel even more crushed.
Yeah, that was very well put out. Everything, like, for, everything, every single thing. I wanted to ask you, like, for people who don't know this, Ben is a full-time musician, and so like, what are the things that people don't really like? Let's say people who romanticize, being, oh, I want to be a musician when I grow up. So like, what are the things that make someone like that want to feel, oh fuck, I did not sign up for this. What's this? What are those things?
I think the main thing that people don't think about that a musician has to do is all the things that your employer does for you. Finding clients, scheduling, taking care of health insurance, payroll, taxes, continuing to develop relationships with people, taking the blame when something goes wrong, even if it's not your fault. A lot of those things get handled by other people at normal jobs. When you're a musician, like, I do lessons, session work, mixing and mastering, I do songwriting for people. There's so many things to balance, and it doesn't feel like I ever have an actual day off. I mean, I genuinely don't have an actual day off where I don't have something to do. I don't have lessons, or I don't have a session to work on, because your life revolves around other people's schedules, especially for lessons. My evenings are a little more eaten into than I would want to, because that's when people are off of work and their kids are home from school. For session work, people write things that are completely impossible and send it over and be like, no, but that's how I want it played. And you have to manage those expectations of, okay, you wrote this in Guitar Pro, but is it actually something that a guitarist could play? It's just like when you or me program something for a drummer, and there's that meme about, a guitarist programs drums and it needs to have like 8 arms to be able to play it. People do the same thing with guitar for session work. And it's a lot of managing people's expectations of what they think you're providing and what you're going to be able to do for them with what the reality of like life actually is. Um, so it's great and I love it. You know, I wouldn't go back to having a day job for anything, but it's a lot of excess stress on my shoulders outside of when I'm actively working on stuff for people. Because then you're thinking about, okay, this next week's going to be a little slow. What am I going to do for money? How am I going to continue able to pay my bills if, you know, God forbid, all of my clients just disappear all at once? Because unfortunately, music lessons, hiring other people for mixing, I mean, lessons are always like the first expenditure that people cut away when times get tight. It's just, you know, the way the world works. With mixing and mastering, now that everyone has access to like so many great tutorials on YouTube, DAWs are so prevalent, people are able to get like pre-mixed, you know, like drum kits and bass stuff and, you know, even guitars that you can just drop into a session and it sounds 95% of the way there. That takes away a lot of work from people who are relying on that. Just like there's always that complaint about AI and graphic designers and text and writers and, you know, all that sort of stuff eats into people who make their living off of doing that. Music is no different. The more we have access to improved technology and the ability to do things on our own, it takes away a lot of the opportunities that someone like me is going to be able to consistently rely on. So it just, you know, there's always that stress about what's next week going to be like. What student is going to move away or they're going to take the summer off, or what client is going to say, oh, actually, you know, I'm just going to send this to this person on Fiverr who's going to do a mix for $5 for me.
Yeah. But like, what do you think separates a professional musician from, let's say, a hobbyist? Like, in your case, like, what have you observed that, you know, separates, you know, draws the line, basically?
That's a really good question. Because, I mean, technically, you know, professional musician, if you're getting paid for doing any kind of work, you're still a professional musician. What I think separates it to me more is the mindset behind it. A hobby musician isn't the kind of person who's recording themselves and looking at the DIs and seeing, okay, did I speed up this gallop here? Do I need to like change my technique a little bit so that my, you know, picking is in line with the kick drum a little bit better? I think professionals in any kind of artistic endeavor still tend to hyper focus on every aspect of what they're doing that could possibly be improved. And we might not get to all those aspects and things might fall by the wayside. So I'm not saying you have to be like a flawless musician and never play a wrong note. But you're consistently looking for ways to improve yourself rather than letting yourself be content and stagnated. Because that's where, you know, all your growth dies. The people who I think are true professionals are the people who realize that we're never going to stop learning new stuff. We're never going to be able to stop improving ourselves. You know, I tell my students all the time, I will learn songs and get better at stuff until the day I die. And that's my mindset always.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions I wrote down for you. Like, you know, like it's hard for, you know, like people to understand that, you know, playing guitar is like, it's just the starting part. But, you know, continuously being better at it, and it takes a lifelong commitment. You're going to keep getting better at it every single day. And a good example that comes to my mind for this, two people come to my mind. One is Jordan Rudess, who just started his journey on guitar, like, let's say a year or two ago. And at this age, like, he is a wizard. He doesn't have to play guitar. But just because he likes doing
He
it.
definitely doesn't have to play guitar and keyboard at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. But he does it just because he likes it. And he reaches out to people, so many people that I know. Giuseppe Gilardi, Liam Orienta, and a lot of other people, Matteo Cesaro, just to get an insight. And that is the mindset that, you know, like, he went far and beyond. His best one of his best friends is John Petrucci, but he went
Hmm.
out to all these other modern guitar players to learn their ways. Because I'm pretty sure he's heard Petrucci all his life, and he probably wanted to sound a bit like different in a way. So, and second is Raul. Like, Raul just learned that bluegrass, like, that we were talking about, like, 4 hours ago, and he
The
posted the
the
video.
pig in the hay one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah, he is such an insanely talented musician and like the kindest person ever. If I ever grow up, I'm gonna be Raul.
Same, +1 on that. But yeah, um, it's crazy. Like, it's a lifelong commitment. Till the day we die, we are actually gonna keep, like, progressing in one way or the other. Maybe sometimes, like, I'm sure you must have seen this a lot of the times. Like, the learning curve for, let's say, guitar, like, for beginners, like, it's quite steep, and then they hit a point where it's like plateau, and that's where I guess most
Hmm.
people stop, because they don't see the progress they once saw, and they be like, oh, I'm not improving, but they're not understanding the fact that it's just them being consistently good at something. And then maybe one day you listen to something like Animals as Leaders and your life changes around 360.
Yep. Yeah, that was me for a really long time. I was complacent and I was like, oh cool, I'll just play this funk rock, post hardcore, like, whatever kind of vibe that I'm into. Uh and when I first heard like Polyphia's first EP, Chris showed me like 10, 11 years ago, and then Periphery's Clear album was the first one that I heard from them. And I was just like, I don't even understand what's going on right now. Like, I have to reevaluate how I think about music. Um, but yeah, I was really complacent. I was just like, cool, this is what I'm doing. I'm really good. I don't need to improve anymore. And I think that's kind of the trap that I always say, like, older students, anyone like between like 30 to 45, I hate teaching sometimes because they've been good at things for so long. They've forgotten what it means to have to like struggle to work to learn something new. And it's really hard to learn as a basic beginner. And that also is the mindset that we fall into if we get complacent and we're like, cool, I'm really good. This thing that I need to spend 2 hours practicing this hybrid picking thing or this selective picking or whatever, I don't need to spend those 2 hours. I'll just play it sloppy or I'll just get it close and, whatever. Um, but going back to the mindset between professional and hobbyist, we want to latch onto those things that they're the finite details of how you improve yourself from being really good to exceptional to amazing to like world class. Nobody gets to that like Mateus Asado level without like one being an absolute psycho, but also just like continually looking for ways to improve yourself. And if I'm not continually looking for a way to improve myself, how am I going to be an inspiration to other people? How am I going to tell other people to get like that focused on practicing and improving their skill set if I can't emulate that for them too?
I know you have played live music quite a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have some crazy venue stories?
Uh, I can tell you about Hawthorne Heights. My buddy Albie loves this story. So I grew up in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio. Hawthorne Heights is from Columbus. And when they got really, really big with their first album and, Ohio is for lovers, blah, 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 all that garbage. My band in high school had an opportunity to open for them at this local youth venue called The Attic. And so these guys, first of all, showed up like 2 hours late on their tour bus, walked off their bus straight into the green room, And like there's like 3 local bands back there, and like we have all our gear backstage, and it's this huge warehouse, so there's tons of space, and they just had this green room with like some couches. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, these are some, Screamo guys that have, like, actually gotten big from Ohio. It's awesome. I'm going to go talk to them and tell them I really love their music, like, and that they're, like, getting Ohio's name out there. Because I used to be happy to be from Ohio. And so I go walk up to the green room, and there's this guy standing outside, and he's, like, their security guard. And he's like, no one's allowed in. I'm like, I'm in one of the bands. I'm allowed to go back there. No, Hawthorne Heights is back there. You're not allowed to go back. I'm like, no, like, I'm allowed to go back there. I'm in one of the bands. This is like a venue I play at, once a month. Like, come on, let me in. And the guy just like shoving me back, like won't even let us go talk to them. So then their roadies like set up all their equipment. They walk out, play their set, immediately walk off stage onto their tour bus and leave. Like, don't sign a single autograph, don't talk to anyone, nothing. It was just like, it was the fucking lamest thing. And, that was pretty pathetic. Not a fan of them, like now looking back, their music wasn't that good. But regardless of how good or not they were, like, that's the kind of mindset that it just like makes my skin crawl, that you think you're too good to talk to people. There's still musicians just like every local band that was there. All the people in the crowd, guess what? You don't have a career without those people who are coming out to see you. Go talk to them, go shake their hands, go make conversation. Like, you're not so important that you don't have to interact with the people who are there to like love what you're doing and support you. So that was one of the worst experiences I had with a live show. Most of the others, like crazy stories, are just venues really taking advantage of bands. We had one here in San Francisco where we brought about 150 people out to a show. The venue fit like 120 people. So it was sold out, broke the fire code. The woman doing the sound spilled her beer all over the mixing board and fried the mixing board. So I had to like ghetto rig together like the PA and the speakers and like a microphone so we could even get like one microphone working for vocals, because she was just like, I don't know what to do. So, we play our set. It was a disaster because we didn't have microphones. There were 4 vocalists in the band, had 1 microphone. So, but we finished playing, and the venue comes, or the manager of the venue comes and gives me an envelope. And he's like, hey, sorry it's not more, but we had to pay like the doorman $350. We had to pay the sound person, and we have to buy a new mixing board. So you guys get what's left over. And I'm like, okay. So I open it, and there's a $5 bill inside.
Wait, for real?
Brought 150 people out to a show, sold the place out, give us a $5 bill to split between 3 bands.
Bro, why even bother?
Yeah. I was like, I don't want this. This is disrespectful. If you can't pay us, like, just say you can't fucking pay us. Don't give us this. This is bullshit. I was like, also, you don't need to take our money to pay for your mixer. You don't need to take our money to pay for the person who broke your fucking mixer. You don't need to take our money to pay for the doorman. You guys have a bar that's selling drinks. You didn't give us any of that money. Like, anyway, so we blacklisted that venue. We called like all of our friends who were in bands in the Bay Area and told them not to play there. And that place is closed now.
Hell yeah.
God. But
Hell yeah.
yeah, it's venues unfortunately tend to be a little bit predatory.
Another question I had was, as a teacher, what have you observed is like a common but very crucial mistake that beginners and intermediate players make, which hold them back for a very long time?
Not playing with a metronome.
I should have guessed it,
It's not playing with a metronome and not recording yourself playing.
Why do you think the second one is, important?
because when you're actively playing, you're not able to give yourself unbiased feedback onto how you're playing. You can't hear like the tiny fluctuations in timing if you're accidentally letting something ring out, especially when you're first starting. You don't have that ear developed to be able to like critically listen while performing. And you're also generally tending to read your music and look at the fretboard and look at your right hand and look at your music again and get confused. And so you have all these different things going on that are taking up or bandwidth in your brain. And at a certain point, you just can't have more things to focus on. So recording yourself, filming yourself, going back and looking, being able to be like critical and say, okay, I see like this low E string is flopping around while I'm playing stuff on the high frets on, the E and the B string. Those are things that, you might not hear, you might not pay attention to, but when you see it in a video or you hear it in a recording, then you're able to go back and kind of make that correction on your own. And that's where I love YouTube. I have students who started learning on YouTube, but it's really hard to develop proper technique off of YouTube because you don't have somebody giving you that feedback of, oh, maybe if you drop your thumb like half an inch or you push your wrist forward a little bit more, you're going to be able to play this better, or, it's going to be a lot more comfortable. But yeah, the metronome and filming yourself, because, metronome, obviously playing with anybody, recording, being able to have consistent, even timing and rhythm. Did it break? Everything broke? Everything broke. Okay, there we go. Now my computer's not frozen. But yeah, being able to like maintain a consistent rhythm, is really hard for a lot of people who don't play with metronomes. I had a drummer that I played with before that he could not play to a click track. And when we went to go record stuff, he said, you listen to the click track and you play along with it, and then I'll play along with you. And he was the drummer. And I was like, that's not how that works. And then when we released the music, I had somebody tell me, I've never been so seasick listening to a drummer in my life, because this fluctuation was just...
As a parting note, I want everyone to know that Ben has a song coming out really soon with Miguel. Would you like to tell a little bit more about it?
Yeah, it's called Surrender to Silence. And if you heard Shouting from the Ocean, which was the last song I did with Miguel, very similar vibe, kind of like Dayseeker, Bring Me the Horizon, just some modern metalcore, tiny little bit of like gent, but not like super periphery or anything. Yeah, and I just filmed a guitar playthrough that'll be going up on YouTube, along with the song being released on Spotify on Monday. Which is incidentally my birthday, just little birthday treat to myself. Release on my birthday, just like Heretic. Yeah, I'm really excited about it because, Miguel and I worked really hard on these songs for a long time, and they've just been like burning a hole in the back of my brain waiting to release them. And now that they're finally coming out, it's just like, yes, weight off my shoulders.
The patience must be like one of the hardest parts about doing that must be the patience, because I guess you must have had the songs ready and then you're like, oh, when can I release this? And it's finally coming out. So that's cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, I can't imagine how hard it is for bands that have like a whole album done and then have to sit on it for like 7 or 8 months while they like do all the videos and get like merch and stuff ready. And you're just like, I just want people to listen to this. I worked so hard. But yeah, I'm really excited that it's coming out. And then I got a song that has
Voldemort.
Charlie Robbins.
Oh, I thought you were, I thought we were gonna keep it a secret, but okay.
No. I want people to know. Yeah, Charlie Robbins is like my hero. So he was kind enough to be willing to feature on a song. So that one will be out hopefully in the next like month also. And then
that's amazing.
Continue
having one of those people that you admire on a track that you wrote, bro, that's goals. That's goals.
Yeah, and that's one of those things we were talking about, like the validation sometimes, getting that from somebody. This is better validation than anyone like sharing something on social media. This is a person who like thought what I wrote was at the level where they're okay with their name being associated with it. You know, even if it's just a feature, like, you know, that's a huge compliment, and I really take that to heart that Charlie was really was willing to lay something down on it. And, you know, hopefully it's just like one of the first of many, where I'm able to convince people that I really respect and really love to do stuff with me. But yeah, I'm really excited for the next like 6 months of releases, because I got some sick stuff.
Yeah,
coming
me
up.
too, man. Me too. I'm looking forward to everything. Would you like to say anything as a parting note?
Yeah, I really appreciate everything that you and everyone else in the 000000000 group has, you know, you guys have been incredibly uplifting, and it's just been such
Oh
a great
man,
community. And it's amazing that we have so many talented people in that group, and there's been so much good music coming out from people lately. So hopefully we get some prayer rock stuff.
definitely before the year
That's what we
ends.
need.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for doing this, Ben. I really appreciate you taking time off your busy schedule for is really what, you know, like, as a big brother to me. So like it really means a lot. It really means a lot.
Well, I mean, you're amazing, man. You're an incredible musician. You're a fantastic guitarist. Like, you know, I would always love to like sit down and take a lesson from you someday if we're ever in the
Bro,
same
don't say
location,
that, man.
because
Come on,
that
you're
would
making me shy.
no. We all have things that we can teach each other.
Definitely.
You know? There are things that you do that I'm sure like I would be blown away like trying to figure it out. So, and that's why we need your music out,
Yes.
so
I'll
everyone
try.
can see all that.
Yeah, thank you, man.